All right, we're on the air. Thankfully, not a little bit ago. This is USfanTV. The United States and Honduras have just played to a 1-1 draw.
Well, the referee made
It,
sure of that.
he's already. We're like 30 seconds in, and he's already
Oh,
reffing it.
come on, come on. He allowed that bullshit at the end. One, he only gave 3 minutes of stoppage when I'm sorry, their cheating alone warranted five. How many guys went down? Uh, I won't say this like truly affected the result along the way, but I will say he absolutely was solidifying the final. Uh, the two other guys laid down on the field. You know, when Demarcus got hit in the head, he immediately was motioning him to get off the field. That was in the first half. In the second half, when their goalie, oh, I'm injured, and laid down, he did none of that.
There is
They had
no
another. They had
way
how many
this
other
result
players
had
did? And
anything to
then
do with the referee tonight.
no, no, I'm just saying
There's
that like
no
he
way
finished
that we
the
should
the
even be
game.
talking about the
No,
referee.
the rest of it, no. The U.S. Uh, there are. I actually had other points to talk about tonight. I just wanted to bring that up because whoever said that, like I always complain about the referees. Oh, I will complain about this referee because he absolutely uh, finished the game there at the end. When the guy won't walk over to take his yellow, so you give him the second yellow for wasting. When he wastes a minute and a half, you don't then go, "Oh, I'll just blow the whistle now." I said it was 3 minutes. You did what he wanted. You were playing into his hands, and you knew it the whole time because, come on, you are a fellow CONCACAF member. You know full well what's going on. So I'm sorry that was ridiculous. There should have been 2 minutes of extra stoppage while we took our free kick to immediately
We
blow the
wouldn't
whistle. That
have
was
scored.
bullshit.
When
But
did we showed
nonetheless,
nothing tonight that
no,
would indicate at
no,
all that we could even score. It doesn't matter. I mean,
no.
yeah,
My
I
my my
expected more
broader point
stoppage,
was
but
actually going to be the U.S. is like there's a plus and a minus or a pro and a con here to like Bruce Arena's managerial leadership here. Uh, on the one hand, the U.S. is starting to play like the better team in these games. It was the same against Costa Rica. Like we were actually playing out of the back. We were trying to play possession. On the other side, we're doing it so piss poorly that it doesn't matter.
no, it was bad. I mean, there's a few guys. There's a few guys that
Yeah,
looked okay tonight. Um, I thought Paul Arriola when he came on actually looked good. I guess you give Bobby Wood. I mean, Bobby Wood screwed up another opportunity, but he did score the one. He scored the goal, so I guess you say he was okay. I liked a few things from Kellen Acosta.
his
And
his shot on that free kick was
oh
good.
yeah, that's
That
Deuce
was
should not
awesome.
be Dempsey should not be taking those anymore. That since we have
No,
if
no.
Acosta's playing, I know he thinks he should. I know he wants to break that record, but he is nowhere near as good at those as Acosta is. Um, and I think Pulisic was he had a lot of fight to him. I thought he was fine tonight. He was
I have to ask:
same game plan. You know,
is he getting a little bit scared from the tackles, or is he protecting himself because he realizes that realistically the U.S. is probably going to make the World Cup, and he's on the plane 100% no
I
matter
think he's
what?
jumping out of some of the.
And yeah,
There was a
because
couple times where he did,
he
yeah,
he was definitely bailing out of some, and he didn't seem to get as angry as he has at some of the games in the past. Like if you watch him back in like March,
screaming,
that
yeah.
dude
He
that
did it
dude
a bit
looked like
tonight.
Bradley early in his career. Where
No,
it was like
no,
he's gonna get his ass thrown out because he's a hothead.
he didn't do it as much tonight, but he did do it tonight. I think that there's probably some of that when you've just had. I mean, obviously the idea from both Costa Rica and from Honduras, and it's the right one is
It works
to
against the U.S.
foul the shit out of him because he's the only guy who's doing
Yeah.
stuff lately. So and it worked. That's
Well,
what you know.
my question when it comes to Pulisic is pretty simple. Why the hell is he out wide? He is your most dangerous player. You're now adding a sideline in as a defender and making him a more susceptible target to getting the shit beat out of him instead of putting him central where he can go right or he can go left, number one. Number two, like I said, you're limiting his space. I don't care if you're putting Dempsey out there. Find somebody else. He needs to be in the center of the park, especially on a field the size of a postage stamp like this one was tonight. He needed to be central.
I
outside
think
of the
some of
waist.
it may be because of the fouls, that he has at least more room to try and run and be fast, as opposed to when he's in the middle, then they can literally triple team him, like just smash him from all sides. I think there may be some of, yeah, sure, he can go left or right from the center, but at least when he's on one side, you have the chance to try and skip past a defender. But I've noticed he's not doing as much of that. He is slowing up and like looking to lay the ball off. He's not just going straight at goal by himself.
Well, and skipping by him when he tries it, all they do is they pummel him. They're going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And like I said, now you've taken the sideline and made it an added defender.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd prefer him centrally too, but I didn't love everything about tonight's lineup. I feel like maybe you should play players that are playing in Europe a little more than dudes in MLS, but that's a Bruce thing. But the thing I did like is I did want to see what it looked like with Nagbe to the left, Dempsey in the middle, and Pulisic to the right. Now I don't really like it, but I did want to see what that looked like. So I would have had probably Bobby Wood up top over Jordan Morris, but you know,
of the things where like you were saving guys, I wouldn't have gone Wood. I mean Morris over Wood. I guess we now know Lehigh has no shot next summer. Like it is Graham Zusi's spot if Yedlin isn't there. We know who number 2 is.
And again, Graham Zusi's fine going forward, but is really susceptible on defense, as is DeMarcus, who looked old and slow tonight. I thought Matt Beasler was okay. I thought Omar got killed on the goal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But was otherwise.
I mean, he should have had that ball probably before it got to Quito. Is that who scored? But no, absolutely, when he was making the tackle, he should have got the ball or done something there. I mean, like at that point, hell, even taking out the player. Okay, so it ends up in a penalty. Wouldn't have been any worse than it was. I mean, I guess he could have maybe gotten a red card, but all in all, like he did nothing there to kind of to prevent that goal.
Well, I was just going to say, based on what you think of CONCACAF refereeing, a red card absolutely would have happened at that point. Just to spite you,
that's a fair point.
Just to spite you, if nothing else, Chris. Just because not because of everybody else, just because of you alone, they would have given a red card for that one.
I also, if we're shitting on Bruce, which I think he deserves some of that, I felt like he was. I was reading the stuff that he was saying to Grant Wall, and I felt like he was. I didn't like it. Grant Wall's like, oh, Bruce is really candid, but he seemed like he's like a whatever happens, whether they're going to fire me, whatever. I don't really think I was outcoached. No, you were outcoached against Costa Rica, and again tonight there were severe problems, including your substitutions. Your actual lineup had issues. Your substitutions. I mean, it was obvious to everyone that Bobby Wood needed to come on, and he brings on Jeff Cameron. Like I like Jeff Cameron.
Well, it was clear when he was making that change that we were going to a back 3.
Exactly, I know that, but that's.
But I mean,
but then when did Bobby Wood come on? 68 or 69?
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, do that. And I honestly, we still didn't look like we were going to score. It didn't look possible. No. But then, Pulisic gets fouled. Acosta hits that rocket off the bar and it falls to Bobby Wood, and we get a little bit of luck, which sometimes you need. I mean, that's just sometimes what gets you through these things. But it didn't. I was sitting there like, we're not going to score, and I felt that early on. I'm like, I just don't honestly believe that we could get a goal, and we did through a little bit of luck. It worked out, sure, and we've got our point that we need to hopefully get through October without having to play the Asian qualifier, which will be either Syria or Australia after today's result. Luckily, found out Syria doesn't play home matches in Syria. God. But either of those teams, Syria's on a run, and Australia is always tough. You don't want to face either of those teams. You'd like to be done with it.
Nothing else. The Kangaroos will fight you.
Now the question is, Honduras has, Mexico and Costa Rica.
So Honduras is done. Honduras is done, essentially. They're not going to get a point in those last two.
Unless Mexico has an ability to keep us out of the World Cup by.
Yeah, my
Mexico's B
discussion.
squad still beats Honduras hands down.
Oh, sure.
Unless they're trying not to.
But yeah, there is the thing of, will Mexico give us the same favor that, say, Sanzusi did? Will there be a Saint Chicharito? I don't believe it.
So we got to win the Orlando game against Panama. And, I don't even know what to think. We should, but realistically, we're in fine shape. But
oh, yeah. I mean, come on. We're playing. We were playing our final 3 games are against the 3 worst teams in the Hex. I guess not counting us. So in theory, we should be able to get some results there. And realistically, we probably only need about 5 points from that. So we got one of them. We need a win and at least a draw. You'd have to think that Panama at home, we should be able to get something, and TNT on the road, we should be able to get something. The real problem is if we get 3 draws here, or 2 more draws, I guess if you want to count it. We certainly weren't out of it, even with the loss, even if we had lost tonight. But the real problem is that what?
I was just go ahead and finish your point, and then I've got something.
I was just going to say that the real problem is that we've kind of had our fill of bad games. We don't have any more opportunities for bad games. We've pushed that one to its limit. It's every team has a bad game now and then. We've had our fill. We've more than surpassed our quota at this point. Quotient, whatever. I can't think of it. We've surpassed our quota, I guess I'll say. We need to get real results. And that means at this point, we basically have to have 2 good games. And can you trust it at this point? Can you trust this team right now? I don't.
Well,
for as much as, I was bitching about the ref. I did that kind of intentionally at the beginning. I will say, no, the ref isn't why this game wasn't a victory by any means.
It's
in the end, this was another poor performance. And on the one hand, there are, I guess you could say, positives to take from it, in that we are starting to play like a possession team against lesser teams. However, if we're not accomplishing it, what does it matter?
That's the thing. Teams know what they have to do. And so we can continue to say that we were poor, which we were, but there's a reason we were poor, and it's not just us. It's that Honduras and Costa Rica before them knew what they needed to do to make us look bad, and they did. They frustrate Bradley. They frustrate Pulisic. They bunker and frustrate our 2 the 2 guys that touch the ball the most. And it works. And so, I guess you say credit to them. They nearly got 3 points tonight or this afternoon, which is another weird thing, but it looks like they have lights. They just chose not to use them. They made it a national holiday, which I will say, good for you, Honduras. I do like that move. I think there should be more national holidays devoted to soccer games. So I stand with you on that. But, and then, back to my point, that's we look bad because this is what teams have figured out they can do against us. You have to give credit to the other side too. It's not just that we're getting 20 chances and we can't finish. It's that they know how to beat us. So we need to come up with something else.
How is any of this new? This has been going on. I mean, I get it. Pulisic's the best talent we've had, but before Pulisic, it was Landon Donovan and Dempsey. You stopped them. You stopped this is not new. This is how CONCACAF teams play the United States. They bunker in the back. They look to counter. The difference is instead of having one person who can do something, now they have 2 or 3. And that's where these games become a lot more lethal than they used to be. It used to be, and then, of course, then you've got the fields that are absolute garbage and so on and so forth. And see, Pat, I disagree with you. I didn't mind Bruce's substitution pattern nearly as much as you did. When they had to go to 3 in the back, there were multiple moves to be made there. Also you have to look at it under the sense of DeMarcus Beasley was done. He was just going to become the Harrington.
That's true.
He was done. He was toast. He was going to just keep being absolutely smoked over there the rest of the night. So he needed to come off.
I would have started the substitution pattern sooner then. If to get Bobby Wood and to get the 3-5-2 out there sooner. maybe that's the
And I
issue.
think, well, and I think Ariola's speed obviously showed against, and again, as much as the Heat played on Bruce's side, it played against Honduras too. Their backs looked tired at the end. Yeah, the goal was kind of a freak off a set piece, so on and so forth. But that was, I want to say it was a little bit coming. It was coming a little bit more than in the past. I don't know. But I still think, yeah, nothing's going to change though until they figure out how to utilize Pulisic better. And like I said, out wide is not the answer for him, and I'll step back to that one. And I saw Dominic earlier, Dominic T, I think it was, mentioning Wando. Yeah, Wando should have scored just to piss Chris off too. That really would have been awesome.
Sports enthusiasts said that possession is a dead man's game, and in modern soccer, it is going that direction. It's you're seeing more and more of this. So he's absolutely right. So if we're going to think we're the better team and we're going to go out there and play out of the back and hang on to the ball and possess the ball, we're going to need to be able to crack it in the final third, and we've just shown zero ability to do that with the current guys we have out there. So I felt like this game was. I feel like, Fabian Johnson is an excellent player and should have been out there, but I feel like he maybe should have been at left back, like we talked about, if you are going to have 4 in the back. I feel like, I hate to say it, I don't understand why Timmy Chandler wasn't called into the lineup unless you are absolutely positively done with him or he doesn't want to play for us or something that, then let us know that. But it's, I'm tired of we're looking stale at this point. And I want to see something different.
I will disagree there in that where the results are looking stale and the final product's looking stale. I think Bruce is injecting new ideas. What I kind of don't understand is that he's injecting some new ideas at a point where it's like, but we just kind of need to get through this. Like if we don't get the results on the field or the results at the end of the game, it doesn't matter if we have some new ideas.
Yeah, I guess to this point it has worked for Bruce. He had taken 8 points and 2 wins and two draws, and he won the Gold Cup for whatever that's worth. We hadn't seen a loss until Costa Rica, so I guess you give him credit for that, but it just did not work. It absolutely did not work. I was just screaming for him to fix it, do something to fix this, because this isn't going to continue to work. You have to do something to counter what they're doing. And so we luck out and get the goal. Otherwise it would have been a far worse show. I don't even know if I would have spoken. I just probably would have sat here and read the comments and moped, but I guess the point makes it a little better, I guess.
Going into halftime, Pat, Chris, I don't know how much of the games you could hear at the Highbury, but they were talking a bit about goalkeepers and the fact that Bruce he pretty much said he's going to stick with Howard and Guzan. And my God, was Guzan's goal kicks in the first half absolutely dreadful. How many of them went straight out of bounds? I get it, the field's narrow, but come on. What the hell are you doing? So I think what I don't like that idea, but that sounds like that's how it's going to be. I don't know what you guys think of Guzan, and at least tonight. The goal wasn't his fault, but I wasn't overly impressed either.
For a guy that we praise his distribution for, I don't think that was particularly good tonight. But yeah, the goal wasn't his fault. I thought he was fine. He had a couple nice saves. I thought he was fine. He was better than Timmy was the other night, and I'm a Timmy guy. But I mean, I'm more so. I'm a guy who wants to find the next guy. I'm these 30 somethings are, and Guzan's a lot younger than Timmy, but come on, it's time to come up with something new. But I guess that time is not now. That October we need to get it done, and then you can think about what you want to do from there. But what is? Yeah, it is. Are you being attacked, Chris? Is something happening?
Apparently my car battery just died, and for some reason my car is trying to start itself over and over, and I can't figure out why, because this is shit that fucking only happens to me. So
it's always something.
It's the
I'm
ref's
gonna
fault.
fucking leave before I get really fucking upset.
You better go.
I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Later, Chris.
You're done.
What's happening?
Oh my God.
He'll blame the refs. He'll find some way to blame the refs.
Yeah, I think it was probably the ref's fault that
it had to be.
I just was hearing like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, are you being beamed up? What's happening? So, and he was just like kind of moving around. Yeah, that was odd. Always problems with this dude, Monster says. Sportsman says Pulisic is consumed by the hype. I don't know that he is. The feeling I get from him and hearing him speak is that he's not. It seems like he's that's not it. It's just he's not. I mean, for me, he's still a little lean. So if you're gonna push him around, he's gonna fall. He's 139 pounds or something like that. So he needs to get physically stronger. And I think that
he could be a brick house. He's still just going to get beaten on until you have another avenue to go through other than him.
That's the thing. He needs to have somebody to pass to, which I like. The problem with putting Pulisic wide and Nagby on the other side is that they don't get to work together as much. I like those two working together quite a bit. So we've seen them produce some really pretty goals before. So I think that, I think you got to move Pulisic centrally. Like I said earlier in the show, I wanted to see what this would look like with Dempsey in the middle and Pulisic wide and Nagby on the other wing. I've seen it, and I don't want to do it again. Just like I wanted to see Fabian play midfield. I've seen it. I think maybe you move him back to left back. And then, we shouldn't be jumping around too much based on one result. So, but I think I've seen enough of both of those experiments. I think you got to have your best player playing centrally. But like when Bobby Warshaw was on with us a few weeks ago, he pointed out he thinks the classic number 10 is kind of a dead position, and he wants a tough guy holding mid playing up that high, and he wants a guy like Pulisic cutting in. So maybe there's something to be said for that too.
This crossed my mind in the first half, and we're stuck with Jordan the Tank Morris. Did Bruce screw up in having Altidore play that game against Costa Rica? Now I get it. Altidore's yellow card was stupid, but we're looking that in the face. Would this have been the one where you held out Altidore for this game, knowing full well on such a narrow field, his size and strength would have come in a lot more handy than it would against Costa Rica, who could actually play?
Maybe, but I also think that Bruce really believes in Altidore, so he was going to have him out there and trust that he wasn't going to pick up a yellow. But the thing with Josie is, especially in CONCACAF, it's big guy, small guy. If he knocks somebody down, suddenly that somebody thinks that it was a hard foul. I think Josie deals with a lot of that because he's gigantic. So, but I mean, maybe in hindsight, yeah, he would have been probably better than Jordan Morris to start this match. But I mean, who's to say?
And you obviously keep advocating for Bobby Wood to start. Bobby Wood to me looks so dreadful against Costa Rica. I was actually okay with him coming on in the second half, just in the idea, especially against tired legs, where he was going to be more advantageous at that point. With his skill set, I mean, he can definitely play. With him being fresh against a tired back line in that heat, I thought that was a good play. Although then you put Dempsey out there, and I thought Dempsey, he too looked gassed. Looked like he didn't hold up as well as he could.
When Dempsey has a bad game, and I know this is true of a lot of forwards, if it's a lot of times it's just a matter of him not getting the ball. But when he has a bad game, he's just an empty shirt. I think back to the CONCACAF Cup, the win Mexico beat us in Pasadena to go to the Confederations Cup. Dempsey was just, I mean, he was physically on the field, but I didn't see him doing anything. And so I wonder if that's,
and him more than anybody, you're right, when he's off, he pouts almost, for lack of a better term. I think he pouts. Where with Landon, I never got that, I'm just thinking of true goal scorers. Landon, he never got that sense, which is probably why I would put Landon in the more special realm than you do Clint Dempsey. I mean, like I said, when he's an empty shirt, he's truly an empty shirt. He had a couple of moments tonight, but like I said, he didn't seem to have an impact at all tonight. And this is the game you really needed him to. So again, I see Bozil whining about the roster as a whole that was brought in. God, I hate saying Bozil's right almost as much as I hate saying Chris is right. But in this case, yeah, this was not the best roster that he could have put together, but I don't know.
I think that if you have players playing in bigger leagues, here's the thing, and this is a thing that I was thinking about the other night too, when people were complaining about Red Bull Arena as being the venue choice. Like, oh, it was an 80-20 US crowd, so it wasn't as pro US as we would have liked. It shouldn't matter. We should be able to play a game in the New York area without bitching about it. We have guys who play in big leagues, in the Premier League, in the Bundesliga, that we don't call. We have guys that do big things. Like we had Emerson Heinemann playing in, the Old Firm derby. What's the other name for it? I forget who calls it what, but the Celtics Rangers game. He's played in that. If he's played in that, he can play at Red Bull Arena or in Honduras. Like we have guys who are just not calling, who are playing in big leagues, and we're calling MLS guys. And I don't hate MLS as much as a lot of people do, but I mean, some of these choices, some of these lower roster choices, I just don't understand. Call the guys are on an international break. Call them over here. Let's see what they can do. They're playing in better leagues than MLS. Let's see what they can do. So that's what's frustrating to me about his roster choices and all the bitching about playing in New York. We should be able to play a game outside of our largest city without being concerned about it. This is a nation of immigrants. There's going to be immigrants from the countries that we're playing against at all of the games. That's part of what America is. So what? Deal with it and get through it.
I was thinking this is almost an episode in and of itself to talk about, is some of these venue choices and so on and so forth. We touched on a little bit last game. We've touched on a little bit tonight. This is another episode, I think, almost in and of itself, because let's face it, going into Honduras is a terrible experience. Going into Mexico City is a terrible experience. Going into Costa Rica is a terrible experience. Going to the United States in any city we choose that they put those games in is never going to be a terrible experience for these other players. They don't stay in hotels with people standing outside blaring bullhorns, and it never will be. There will never be that advantage, that atmosphere, as much as you want to make it. It's never going to be in the United States, because they do get to train, these other teams do get to train in nice facilities. They get to train in relative privacy. It's never going to happen, and it shouldn't. But that is one of the advantages some of these other teams, these smaller nations, have versus playing in the United States. There's just way too much. They stay in 4- and 5-star hotels no matter where they go. They get to, like I said, train on some college campus where they're left alone, and so on.
Am I the only one left on this thing?
No, I'm here. Are you there?
Oh, the TJ's back. Yeah, you just dropped out for a second there, but you're right. The guys get the luxuries in. I mean, there's nice hotels in these capital cities and other cities we're playing at, and in these other Central American and Caribbean and in Mexico. These countries, they have like Westins and things like that we find ourselves at. But you're right. There's nobody, like our fans aren't calling Chicharito and waking him up constantly or doing something outside the team hotel. It's just not something that we're mostly not passionate enough to do it. It's just not something we would do. But we wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that to like the opposing NFL team in town either. It's just not something we do. So right or wrong, I mean, it's I give credit to them. If you can get every advantage for your team, you can. Fine, do it. It's we have to overcome that. We have to be, not to sound like Jurgen Klinsmann again here, but we have to be better. We have to push ourselves. We have to try harder. Jurgen was right about a lot of things. I didn't love everything he did, and he had some on-field confusion with his players, but at least he pushed them to be better, to move forward. And we are definitely not. And I know that's not Bruce's job right now. Bruce's job is to get us qualified, and then we can worry about who's going to push us forward. But I worry that we're going to get qualified and we're just going to lay an egg in the World Cup. And what's the point if we're not moving forward? So, again, this is another topic for another time. Let's face it, the World Cup, as much as being in form, all that stuff matters, your draw matters equally as much. You can have your team in perfect form, get stuck with the draw from hell, and it's just, you're done. That's just sometimes how it works. But again, I'm not as Eurocentric as you are. I mean, I had no problem with this being an MLS, more of an MLS based lineup, because let's face it, most of these guys that Honduras especially have, that when they factor in, they play MLS. These guys like Beasley, like
Zusi and all those. That's who they play against. They should be more used to and ready for what these guys can bring against them. Versus, versus really Costa Rica and Mexico, who have a few more European-based players than, and especially Honduras. So didn't they say like their better players are that they play for Houston?
Yeah.
So you would think Beasley would be ready for this. And or would they'd have a better scouting opportunity and they'd be able to handle this a little bit better.
I mean, there's a few MLS guys. I'm always comfortable with Matt Beasler. Matt Beasler gets shit sometimes, but I'm always comfortable with Matt Beasler. Just like when Alejandro Bedoya is out there, I'm comfortable with him. They don't tend to make a lot of mistakes. Bedoya doesn't give you a ton going forward. And if you're going to play Pulisic on the right over Bedoya, I get that. But there's MLS guys I like, and obviously Bradley's is a solid choice most of the time, and some other guys, but our goalkeepers that's just what it is right now. But we have guys, and I'm not talking about the German Americans are great. I'm really big fan of Fabian, obviously, but just the Americans who were brought up here but are playing in Europe. Like somebody mentioned before that they're not in the American system, but Emerson Heineman's from here. We have a lot of guys over there who you could give Lyndon Gooch a call. You could give, there's a lot of guys over there who don't regularly get called up by Bruce, who maybe should. So, one of them, DeAndre Yedlin, obviously does get calls a lot, but he was hurt. So we could have used him. He has become since the last World Cup, a really solid defender, I think. So we could have used him tonight, and hopefully, we've seen a lot of injuries with him lately, so hopefully he's going to turn the corner on that and not become one of these injury prone guys who have trouble. But somebody brought up Cameron Carter-Vickers. Yeah, he's an English. I think he kind of grew up in England, but and I don't know that he's a guy that I call because he doesn't really play at Spurs, and I know he's on loan now. So if he starts to play more regularly, then I think maybe you give him a call. But
Miatska's another one that I think is in that same.
Yeah, Eric Lehigh, who wasn't perfect in the Gold Cup, but I think is somebody worth giving another call up to. So yeah, I mean but whatever, Bruce. I think coaches often fall victim to familiarity and calling up guys that they're familiar with and who they see. And obviously Bruce, as a former MLS coach, has seen a lot of these guys and is familiar with them. And, the guys he hasn't, like Omar, obviously he's got different reasons to be familiar with Omar. He was his coach. So it is what it is. It's like, that's why Jurgen used to call Alec Gordon, I think, because he's on TV in LA. So
again, but we're back to that same point. Bruce isn't brought in here to develop the next generation. He's here to get them through now, and in every decision he makes, he's not looking long term.
No, it's fine.
He did a little bit with the Gold Cup, admittedly, so a little bit, but he's not looking at the future. That's why you're not seeing Miatska, you're not seeing Heineman, you're not seeing those type guys in yet, because they're not going to factor next year anyway. Get through 2018. And then they'll get knocked out in the first round most likely, and then we'll move on to somebody else. But Bruce is 2018 and done. I don't care what he says publicly. He knows it too.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. We should not, I don't think, maybe I would say differently if we had lost tonight, but I don't think that you fire him now. I think you give him the last two games and see what he can do. And then if we have to play Australia or Syria, who, thank God, Syria does not play their home matches in Syria. I believe they're playing in Malaysia.
Correct. I saw that as well.
That's a tough one, but either way, that's a tough one, and you just don't want to get involved in that. Hopefully we can lock up the third spot with two very nice wins in October, and we can all be going into the winter and Camp Cupcake and the 2018 calendar year on a high note. But right now it's just not fun. It's like, it's just, I wonder sometimes why I do this between the way the US is playing lately and Arsenal. It's just not fun.
Two birds with one stone. Austin Westbrook, yes. Arena out, but only if you put Wenger in. That's the only way you can do that banner, just because Chris's head will actually explode.
Chris would leave. Like that would be it. He wouldn't come here anymore to do the, like he would, like tonight how he just left because his car was doing something crazy because it's Chris. He would just leave. Like that would be it. He would be done. You would be the new permanent co-host, I think, TJ, because Chris would not be.
But when you started on this venture, did you ever think this qualifying cycle would be this much of a dumpster fire?
No. Like I remember looking at Mexico in 2014 and thinking, how did that ever happen? That would never happen to us. And then it did. And now I know what it's like. It just, the games are harder than the team. The opponents are better than we give them credit for. The games are harder than we think they are a lot of times. And it's easy to go, oh, you're a big nation, you should automatically do this. And I mean, everybody always says that CONCACAF qualifying is forgiving, especially when you get to the hex, because 3.5 of the 6 teams are going to make it. And if you're a big country, you presumably should. But you know what? It's the last 2 games we've shown that we maybe don't deserve to. I still think we will, but they're not gimmies. So no, I didn't expect it to be quite like this. But I said that about Mexico in 2014 too. I was just confused as to how that could even happen to a team that good. But when things get out of whack, they get out of whack fast, and you don't have a lot of time to. It's not like you're a club team where you're playing together every week. You're going away for 2 months, and then you're showing back up, and there's going to be a few new guys, and you're going to try it again. And so you don't have that same level of familiarity with your teammates as you do with your club teammates, and that's why some of these games look this way. So, yeah.
That would I remember when this project started. I never would have predicted it would be this tough, and the gap has closed. Let's face it for what it is. But we've known that. That's not even a question. And Mexico has jumped way back in front again now. But then again, you look back. Didn't they win the gold medal in 2012?
That was the start of it. I mean, for me, our performance in the 2000 Sydney Olympics kind of launched us into we nosed ahead of Mexico for the last decade. I think whatever we call that decade, the aughts or whatever. I don't think there's a good name for it, but I think since the London Olympics and that gold medal for Mexico, they've jumped ahead again. They're better than us. And it's not fun to say as a US fan, but it's if you don't say things like that, if you continue to pretend you're better, then that's how you get worse. You're resting and you're thinking you're better than you are. You're not. Mexico's definitely better than us right now, but things can change in the course of a few years and this type of thing. So, I don't think Mexico is as good as they think they are, as some of the fans, but they are better than us. So
I see Ivan Tobias post, this whole cycle has been a fluke. They all are. Everyone is so uniquely different. And you get to the World Cup, it's the same. Like I said, it's the same thing. Your draw depends, and you can have one fluke injury and it can blow everything up, or one bad result, and what was it? In Korea, Japan, you had Portugal fall absolutely flat on its face when it was unexpected. Results happen like that, and yeah, this cycle's been weird. But I can't sit there and say any of the results based on the flow of the game weren't just all the way through. There wasn't a scoreline you looked at and said, man, that scoreline shouldn't have been that at the end of the day. No, there isn't one of the game. There isn't any of the games. None of them.
No, I mean, even if you go back to Mexico, the first match of the qualification where we were there, they grabbed that header at the end, but we played so poorly in the first 20 minutes of that match. I'm surprised it wasn't 3-0 Mexico at that point. So that was a just result. We obviously got our asses kicked in Costa Rica. We came out in March and we're great against Honduras. And then was it Panama after that? We got the point down there.
We got a point in Panama City, correct?
We were pretty good against Trinidad and Tobago in Denver, but not great. A 2-0 result is fine. It's great, but we didn't play particularly awesome that day. And then Mexico was a fine result. I think we played well, and that was a deserved result in Azteca. And then the last 2 games have been shit. So there's no point where I don't think there's any excuses here. I don't think there's anything to blame, anyone to blame but ourselves for some of the way we played and obviously some of our coaching decisions. But, these guys are, they're doing what they think is right. Whether it's Jurgen or Bruce, they're not trying to screw us over. They're doing what they think is right. It's just sometimes it's easy to go back and go, well, you were wrong. But I was adamant that Bruce was wrong going into Azteca with that 8 changes he made or whatever it was going in there, and that worked. We got the point we needed there. So sometimes we're wrong too. It's easy to look back and go, they suck. But if you look back step back at the big picture, then you get a better idea of what's going on. So, okay, Christian, you've been asking this question the whole show, so I'm going to tell you my thought. I don't think it'll matter that Alexis isn't playing in the World Cup for me next year, because Alexis isn't going to be an Arsenal player because he wants the hell out. And actually, if Alexis were an Arsenal player, I would want him to have the summer off, because he hasn't had a summer off in like 5 years or something like that. So I like watching him. So I'd be sad if he's not there. But have they been knocked out of qualifying? Is it over? I haven't looked at the countable results. But yeah, I would, if Alexis remained with Arsenal, I wouldn't feel terrible if he wasn't playing in the World Cup next year. The rest would be just fine with me, but he's going to be with Manchester City or somewhere else, and so it doesn't matter. So I don't care. So there it is. I think we've hit the end of this show. What do you think, TJ?
Okay. Yeah, I think we're there. To answer your question, Chile is currently in 5th place in the table, which it looks like they have. Does that mean they go to a playoff game of some sort? Because it has I'm looking at ESPN's. They have 4 that are green and 1 that's gray, and Chile's in that gray spot. However, based on that same table, Argentina's still behind them. So, well, they're tied with Argentina. Argentina has a game in hand. Argentina has a game in hand, though. Yeah, right now it's
World Cup without Argentina. I mean, the Dutch are going to miss again, aren't they? Like I know they didn't miss the last World Cup, obviously,
they missed the Euros, though.
They missed the Euros, yeah. So that's the 2nd straight major tournament that they're going to miss. I mean, these things aren't guaranteed. They will be closer to guaranteed starting in 2026, but when we have a lot more teams. But these things aren't guaranteed, even for the best teams in the world. And we talk about, some of the people were bitching at us the other night, like on the comments after the fact, like, you can't even beat Costa Rica. You're that terrible. But then France couldn't score against Luxembourg. So France, who has more talent, probably, I don't think they're the best team. I think Germany is, but France probably has more talented players than anybody. So, and they drew against Luxembourg. So, I mean, things happen. It's crazy sometimes. It's not always going to work out the way you think it is.
No, and with Costa Rica, let's face it for what it is. As long as they have Keylor Navas, they are in every game against anybody. If he gets hot, I'm gonna use a hockey analogy, just in the sense of he's like Patrick Waugh. He can absolutely take a series on his own, and you get to the World Cup, 1 games. I wouldn't want to play against him. He proved that last time out in 2014. But to talk about Costa Rica, but much less the fact that they're a decent side to go around him too. But yeah, these definitely are not a guaranteed thing. Yeah, we're at the end though. If we're going on to that, we're done.
Yeah. All right. This is USFanTV. The website's USFanTV.com. I just paid the bill on that again today, so there's going to be another year of USFanTV.com. We have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. They are all USFanTV. We don't like Snapchat. You know where to find us if you know the secret words on Craigslist. But you got to know the secret words. And you know that we have YouTube because you're currently watching this. So thank you for watching. Thanks to everybody who's new. Thanks to everybody who shows up every Tuesday and Thursday for our regularly scheduled shows. Thanks you to everyone. Subscribe. If you have not done that, please do that. That helps us. And tell your friends. There's this idiotic show I just saw about soccer. Somebody joked today on the Men in Blazers account. They retweeted somebody, like they said, what if there was a US Fan TV? They were making fun of Arsenal Fan TV. And people were like, some of you guys were like, there is. So that's awesome. So thank you for that. TJ, do you have any final words?
Nope. Fuck Wando. And that's about all I have. Fuck Wando.
All right. Hopefully we can do this, guys. You're done.